Okay, we are live on this December 18th and close to Christmas, and we're still talking about privacy when we should be like taking a vacation or something. Adult Beverage Friday, I'm in it. Who gives the channel a thank you, Jack O'Neill, Outer Spacey, Jason Jones, A. Sanchez, Nieto Sack. I'm in an entire mire. Neo, hello guys. Hello to the first. I saw like 40 some people at the beginning here. And I guess everyone's coming back in now. Thank you for being here on this Friday. And today we're going to talk about kind of this big picture because you're gonna have relatives that are gonna be asking the same question. During the holidays, we get asked the same question because many of us here, especially those of you who are here on the live stream, will likely feel like you ought to speak up during a family gathering, and if you're allowed to gather. I guess in California we're not allowed. We're not supposed to do anything. So zuck that, but. Yeah, we're not supposed to be allowed to gather in any sort of way, but I'll just keep it to myself. But anyway, the question that is going to come up in a family gathering is, why do we need to bother with all this privacy stuff? Who cares? I just want to live my life. I live a life where I don't commit crime, so why do I need to worry about this? And this is something that we are always faced with, and we should really have an answer for this. And again, somebody left a comment on my video on this kind of reaction to the video, saying, why should we care? Why should we care about this? Why should we work so hard? Another person left another message, which is kind of similar, and this person said, yeah, I hear you. This seems like it's important, but at my age, this is the person was saying this, at my age, why should I even bother? It's let me just live my life and forget this, and as long as I'm not committing a crime, then it's okay. And it's really, really sad, because it's the people like this, people who think like this, are actually what's going to cause the rest of us globally to suffer the consequences of lack of freedom, because a whole group of you are giving it up. So as Snowden once said, well, who cares about privacy and all this? If you don't care about privacy, why don't we just take away your freedom of speech? Because you're not using that either. If you're not speaking out, you're not using freedom of speech, then might as well take it away. So we might as well take away your privacy, because you don't seem to care if privacy is important. If it's not important, we don't need it. Let's just remove privacy by law. We're not none of us are allowed any privacy. So is that what you guys want? Is that the end result of a whole generation? And I don't want to criticize a specific generation, but during the last few years, all of us, and I mean young and old, fell to the attraction of tech. Apple and Google saying, look at all these fancy devices, and we're going to do this, and we're not going to care about the loss of privacy, because we're going to give you all the stuff for free. And hello, huge debate. You've been saying it's too late for the last how many years now? Has it been like 6 years of you telling me it's too late? So let's talk about that a little bit. Thank you, Pier Pablo. Is that Pier? Pier Paulo. Sorry. Pier Paulo, thank you. Thank you so much. Kareem, Daddy Do, S. Swelt, Psychic Coop, IRI, Fyodor, Brickwitch, Bruce Wayne, DH. Welcome, guys. Welcome. So, one of the things that that we don't actually consider is the power that we're giving these entities unchecked. And I don't know what it is. Do we trust? Do you trust that you're giving Apple, Google, Facebook? I'm not on Facebook, fortunately, so that's one less risk out of the way. And the government, National Zucking Agency, three-letter agencies, and even let's go beyond that. Equifax, your health data with insurance companies. All of this data is out there, and we don't have any input about how they're going to use it. And basically, we're, especially, for example, with Equifax, we are being judged. Every move you make, you're pretty much controlled. You are told that you're supposed to buy things on credit so that you build the credit to buy something. So basically, society has said, don't spend within your means, spend outside of your means, because that is good for us. We, the credit card companies, make the money. So spend outside of your means. And so they don't push the fact that, hey, maybe you don't spend that money because it's not necessarily good for you. By the way, am I in focus here? I'm looking at the camera. I don't think the focus is set correct. I think it's okay, but I don't think the focus is set correctly. I'm watching you every move you make. Hello, hello, Karen. If it's all a spy, then it's nothing hidden. Looks like in focus to me. Okay. You're clear. Okay, good. Because I'm seeing the focus bars on the camera, and that means I have it set to spot focus, which is not what I wanted to do. So, thank you, Karen. Thank you. So, so it just boggles the mind when I have to listen to my own family come to me and say, well, we're in the ecosystem of Apple and we're not going to leave. And first thing that happens when they come to my house is they all start Facebook Messenger and talk to my sister who's in a different country. And Facebook Messenger. And then I got to leave the room. It's like, do I need this? And then they don't, to them, there's no effect. What's the point of all this? There's no reason to be concerned about Facebook Messenger understanding everything about your life, everything you're doing, everything you're talking about, who's connected to who, how much money you're making, how much money you're not making, who you're in a relationship with, who you're not in a relationship with. All of that is being captured, and boy, that really makes me uncomfortable. And most people say, well, who cares about this? It's not important. And I look at the environment in a 1984 Orwellian kind of world, and a third party, in this case Big Brother in the book, knows everything about everyone and is judging every person. And just like you're being judged currently with your credit report, now you'll be judged in other ways, including your social behavior, as they're doing in China. And it's actually even being done in the U.S. in very subtle ways. By the way, there's a really evil site called mylife.com. Stupid site with really bad data. And they're actually giving you a social score. And people are saying, well, we don't really care about this. Now, if this were just an ephemeral thing where, you do something and you disappear and it's forgotten, I would have a different reaction. The problem is most people don't understand the technology. They don't understand how AI works. They don't understand the permanence of the internet. The internet is not something where you go in there and you do something and tomorrow it's gone. Whatever you post on Instagram, you say, well, it's no longer popular, so it's gone. unfortunately, the internet is unforgiving because whatever you put on it is going to be there forever and ever, forever and ever. This is why I feel kind of bad, for especially for young people who put in so much of their life on Instagram. For example, boyfriends and girlfriends, and which has a bit of impermanence to that, as it is. Until you get married, you'll probably go through a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends, and that is being put on the internet. And I'm thinking to myself, whatever you put in there, how's somebody going to look at that 30 years later? Because you can't delete it. It's not deletable. And I don't know what it is that we actually have said to ourselves that I don't really care. Maybe they don't know it's undeletable. Maybe they have no realization because everything's so short term. Remember, this world of where everything is put into social media has only been around since 2007 or so. And for many people, it only started even later than that, maybe 2012, before they actually got big into social media. Before that, it's just a passing thing, and they got their first iPhone in 2007. Maybe you're a late bloomer. You only got an iPhone in 2012. The point is, it's permanent. It doesn't disappear. So how is that going to be used against you, especially young people who put in a bit of their lives, and it's going to affect everything they do and say forever and ever, and you're going to be judged for what you do. And when you're young, you make mistakes. You're not yet consistent with your beliefs. You certainly have changing relationships, changing organizations, changing feelings, and all of that is being put on the internet where somebody can say, that's what you believed. Even though you may not believe that 30 years later, it's going to be pushed on you because that's the way the internet works. And that's just on a personal level, okay? Personal level. And then we get into the scary part of this, which is the AI and how the AI can manipulate people and how the AI can say, oh, we know how people react to certain topics. So if we twist it around in a certain way, we can twist an opinion and maybe cause a change in an election. Now, that is probably the most scary part about this, is when you fabricate a story and people are so gullible, they actually think that whatever they see on the internet is so true, and then you twist the story, and if somebody knows the way you think, they can twist the story in a very, very targeted way, just like Cambridge Analytica did, a very, very targeted way, and you're going to react to it a little bit more strongly than if it was sent in a general way. This is something that everyone in marketing understands, that the more targeted the message, the more intense the reaction. And people are saying, well, I don't care about that. You see, that's the problem. The people who say they don't care, they don't even understand that the visions of what they're seeing on social media is already affecting you. You're already making choices in life based on what you see on social media, and whatever they show to you, that's what you think the issue is. And one of the things that is made to not be an issue is privacy. We're being made to believe day by day that this is not important, that we don't need to care about people knowing everything we think, that privacy is not right. By the way, back even just before all of this, in the early 2000s and prior, everyone was concerned about being chipped, social media. Not social media, being chipped, and Big Brother and privacy. And suddenly we get the free stuff from Google, and then suddenly no one cares anymore. Wow. Think about the manipulation here. That somebody twisted the story, so now, today, it is no longer important to have privacy. Whereas generations of people in all countries have felt like privacy was important, going all the way back. And suddenly people laugh at me, and you know what they call me when I talk about privacy? They say, I have a tinfoil hat. Since when? It's like, this really it's very, very upsetting to think about, since because calling somebody a tinfoil hat is a way to disparage you and make you look foolish and make your message look unimportant. Since when have I had a tinfoil hat? Nothing I talk about is tinfoil hat related. Everything I'm saying is just what it is. Okay, the technology is there to do this. I understand how the technology works. I understand what the technology can do. I understand what the AI can do. And to actually come around and say, this guy is a tinfoil hat because, it's a fearmonger, conspiracy theorist. And it's like, stupid fools, really. Somebody actually made a statement to me. This is kind of amusing. Somebody actually said, no one's going to spend their time looking at all my data at Google or Facebook. Nobody has that kind of time to sit there and pour through my social media content. And that's how stupid the reactions are, because they actually think this is done by an individual. And it's like, it just goes to show that they've never read the book 1984. Because, well, it's obviously clear to most of us that it is not a person doing this. This is a mass manipulation. You can be manipulated to think anything if somebody alters the message. I've told you about my life history. I lived in a dictatorship when I was a kid, and if you understand how that feels, where someone can manipulate the message, this is why this is a very strong thing with me. Because I've seen it in person. I've seen how somebody can manipulate the message and say, hey, I'm the dictator and I'm the best and I'm perfect and everybody else is wrong and I'm talking about the right thing. If you never see a countering argument to that, you actually will begin to feel the hopelessness, like that's the only opinion. So can you imagine what happens when somebody like Apple, Google, Facebook is able to then do censorship, and they're able to say, oh, we're going to blast one side of an opinion out. You can only see one side. Then you will feel like what I felt like in a dictatorship, where there's an opposing view, but you can't hear it. And so you're not able to judge really in a balanced way, because everything that you see is unbalanced. That's what we see today. Everything is unbalanced. We only always see one side because the powers to be really control, the message in so many topics about what's important. And I don't really care what you believe. You can believe anything on any side. I just always want to make sure that we hear a balance of information from all sides so we can see all points of view. I'm actually, I consider myself a fairly open kind of person, and I don't really judge people so much. I'm able to actually say, there's a point there and there's a point there, and I'm able to judge, and you balance it out. And I can't say I'm an extreme in any side. But what I hate is when nobody's able to speak, and when a message is removed because they can do it. See, that's the problem now with all the control of media in phones, specifically Apple and Google. They control, mobile devices. And the fact that you guys are so tied to your mobile devices means you don't want to look at data in any other way. You don't even want to research. You're just going to go to your Facebook and to your social media and say, this is the way the world is. Whatever Instagram presents to you, that's the way the world is. And it's very, very sad, for one, because do you actually think that everyone is as happy as they show you on Instagram? Everyone lives, a very good life, on Instagram. Everyone's always travel. Well, not now, but, travel and doing, having nice dinners and, all this, and having a handsome boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And you show it on Instagram, and most of us, the average person looks at that and says, "Wow, my life isn't as good as this person on Instagram." And we follow somebody on Instagram. By the way, I'm not on Instagram, so I'm talking purely in theory here. I will never be on Instagram, just like I'll never be on Facebook. Uh, we're caught in this world of, it's to be happy. We have to look at other people and say, that person is happier or looks happier on Instagram, so therefore, uh, I'm gonna go keep watching these happy people, and perhaps they're gonna make me happy too. And unfortunately, these happy people end up committing suicide or something, or having seemingly good relationships in public, just like Hollywood, and then you find the reality that things are not what they seem, and we actually follow that and believe that, and because that's the influence being controlled by being presented to us by social media. So I have a Facebook, but I stopped using it. Doesn't matter. You will be influenced in various ways just by having a Facebook account. So yeah, I left Facebook in 2012. I was actually a heavy user all the way till then, until they went public, and then the direction became clear that their intent is to steal data. So I swiftly left that, and then it became worse and worse and worse. And now they do everything to spy on everything they can find about you, to the point that you can't even go anywhere. Anyone near you is bound to show up on your contact list. Jason Jones, my family wasn't still in the Philippines. Marcos was dictator, banned CB radios. They are still banned today, so I know what you mean. Why would CB radios be banned? That's crazy. That's pretty crazy, because guns are not banned, but CB radios are banned. That's pretty funny. Have you heard about Rise Up? No. I don't really, I don't participate in any. I hate politics, so you don't see me talking politics or participating in political things. What do you think of Apple attack on Facebook? I'm actually not familiar with that, but they really need to attack each other. Yes, it's called travel munism, solar wind. Uh, so anyway, we can be blind to this. You can ignore this and think that technology is very benign. Unfortunately, if you understand my background, then you understand why I understand this in a much deeper way. My prior career, people don't actually know that I really don't need to be on YouTube here. I had a successful career and successful company before this, and just life doesn't work in a straight line, and although I already was successful and already made a lot of money in my life, things turn out in a bad way, and I should be retired by now, but I'm not, because things go good, things go bad. So that's what happened to me here. But what is interesting is what my prior job was, and I've started many companies, and my involvement was primarily in electronic medical records. So that's been my my specialty. I built enterprise systems, health systems, in healthcare. And if you're in healthcare, you actually get a lot of access. I could see millions and millions and millions of patient records. I'm able to see million. Well, not anymore. I'm not in business anymore, but I'm able to see millions of, not just the millions of patient records, but I can see medical records of famous people who happen to be clients of my customers, and I can go into any of their systems and check them out. And yeah, and in the course of business, doing whatever you do, you will encounter the you will get access, and you will see, some pretty personal things related to their health records. And that alerted me way back. This is, I was in health records for a very long time. Developed, I invented, I'm one of the early inventors of electronic medical records. And getting access to that just goes to show, how personal healthcare is. And, some of your personal problems in healthcare are visible to many, many people, especially the ones running the computer systems that keep the medical records. And that's when I already knew this is going to be an issue in the future if this kind of data is available to a third party. And back in the day, this was, when I was doing that in the, so long ago now, 10 to 20 years ago, when I was doing a lot of that, we were already doing this. We were doing something, just to introduce you to the terminology that we do in medical. It's called outcomes analysis. And what we do is we do cause and effect. We analyze the data of patients and see cause and effect. Is there anything in your social behavior or your past history or medications or history present illness or anything that you reported? Is there any correlation between that and a outcome that may affect morbidity or mortality, to be more technical here? And which means you have to analyze the data just exactly the same way that the AI now analyzes the data. And we were building those systems back then. We had the capability, actually, even early on, to say maybe we can even pre-diagnose a patient before even the doctor diagnoses. Just from the collection of data that we had, we can actually predict what the diagnosis would be in many, many cases, especially in the normal cases, if it's not what I call an edge case. And that information, that knowledge is exactly what you see in analysis of data that you see in social media. It's the same exact thing. Is there anything in a behavior that can lead you to identify, a personality trait, behaviors, and so on, and maybe choices? Would you make certain choices in life based on your political beliefs, based on life history, and so on? In medical, if you don't understand some of the questions in a medical environment, some of you, I'm sure, has asked this, but there's a section, for example, in medical history that says social history. And social history asks about social behavior, your sexual preferences, your drug use, your relationships, your promiscuity, and all of these kinds of things are actually on there. In fact, even for kids, it says, who does a kid live with? How many people are there? What are the ages? All of that is stored even in a pediatrics kind of social history. And these are important questions, actually, to ascertain certain things that may be happening to a child. And so there's a lot of data in there. And now in social media, it's even worse than this, and it's even more detailed. And we let them just have access to that without any kind of control. No one's out there saying, I do not permit third parties to analyze my data and analyze my behavior in any kind of a way. Yet Cambridge Analytica was able to come up with a personality profile of 50 million Americans just from what they do in social media. Can you imagine that? You don't even think about that, but they arrived at a personality profile based on what you do in social media. And that makes you very, very predictable, because they know what triggers you. If they know what triggers you, somebody can now control you. Somebody can send a fake news message and you're going to react. And, some people, when they hear something, they can't undo it. So I don't like that way where, somebody can control the message to me, where whatever they know about me is permanent, where somebody can do bad things to me just by knowing, what I do, where someone can manipulate both my economic choices and personal choices by knowing everything about me in a way that you don't even realize. And having this done with an AI, not even a human is doing this. AI is profiling you and it's able to then arrive at a prediction of behavior. And you actually don't think, some of you are not that sophisticated. You don't understand, if you think about self-driving cars and the AI in that, this is not that different. AI is used in everything now. And self-driving car is an AI that looks at the road, but the AI can be used to predict behavior, to manipulate you, and do anything. And based on probability of behavior, they can get results, and sometimes results that are clearly manipulation. And guess who the biggest users of this AI are? The financial companies. Financial. I don't even understand that. One of the biggest users of Palantir is JP Morgan. What the heck? Why JP Morgan? Goldman Sachs. Why is that? Because they can manipulate your behavior, they can manipulate money. Some of you are just, kind of dense with some of this. Not this group, but just people in general. They just have no understanding. You got to get a little bit more sophisticated, guys. This is not just about ads in and outie. It's not just about ads. If I can manipulate your behavior, I can manipulate the stock market. I can make money off you. Then I have more money to do more manipulation and control the message until you disappear and you're just a peon. You're going to live for the rest of your life hugging your phone, thinking that's your life when there's no real life anymore. So, Huge D Bite, probably the last time you will ever hear from me. Merry Christmas, Huge D Bite, but why so dramatic? Huge D Bite. Why so dramatic? Anyway, the first 30 minutes of my session here is me is when I do a monologue, and then I actually don't take your questions until the second session here, which is now. So I'm gonna take your comments here now, and just to remind you again that this broadcast is sponsored by Linode. Now, I made a video about how important it is to analyze if cloud computing is safe or not. And in many, many ways, if you control the server, you will actually be a lot safer. And not that any of you can make your own server necessarily, but Linode actually allows you to pre-configure a server from one of their apps that are already done. So you can even set up like Jitsi servers and WordPress and all that, and you just choose from a list and they already do it for you. So you just fire it up and then you have just a simple server that's already set up, and you don't even have to do much programming or setting up Linux or doing any of that. And what I found is of all the companies, and I've dealt with many cloud computing companies, data centers, I have found that the most reasonable, both in price and the best in service, I'm actually very, very impressed by them, is Linode. Linode is a private company, and they're been running by themselves all this time since 2003. And I've shifted a lot of my, I used to have like 10 data centers that I used to work with, and I've shifted like half of my servers are now on Linode, and it's been a good company to deal with. And very, very helpful to me, and I'm always impressed by their tech support. And so if you're thinking about setting up a server or even just setting up a website and doing simple things like that, for as little as $5 a month, go to Linode and learn about their servers. And if you use my code there, linode.com/Rob Braxman, you actually get 2 months free. So whatever you spend in 2 months, up to $100, it's going to be free. So you can even get a couple of big servers if you want to try it out. And, it's not going to cost $50 a month for even a big server. So it's going to be good. It's also good for playing. If some of you are into playing with Linux and servers, and you don't really have a computer at home, you can actually play with their server for $5 a month. And if you use it for half a month, it's only $2.50. You control your expense. So, but it's a great way to learn as well. So, anyway, many ways to safeguard your privacy is by having your own servers, such as with Jitsi, XMPP, and so on. That some of you don't know how to do yet, but or even your own email server. But if you ever think about that, you ought to consider Linode, because I use it myself. It's good company. I use it myself. Okay, so anyway, hello, Joe Smith. I have a Linux server in an RV. It's a good idea to do this. Do you run a render farm? Is it possible to have privacy and security for TV streaming? I wouldn't worry about streaming on Netflix or Prime Video or any of that. That is not worth it. You're not giving them data. You're taking their data. So are you really that concerned that you watch the top 20 most popular movies versus, some old movies? Is that the worst of your fear? I would not think that there's any data of any significance that I would have to worry about using Netflix. So don't worry about doing a VPN on Netflix or Prime or whatever. That is not your issue. Okay, worry about where you give them data, not where you take data from them. Streaming is the reverse. You're taking their data. So I wouldn't worry about that. Put that off your list. That's not a concern. Focus your attention on things that are a concern. I want to make a statement. About the gentleman who made a comment in my video saying, why do I need to spend my time on all this privacy stuff? Just a brief statement because I'm over my original time here. The reality, guys, is it's not really that hard. You don't really have to do too many things. I mean, some of this you establish as a habit, and you don't have to do too many things. There's a lot of things to do, but it's not, if you set the habit for it, it's not that bad. Let me just summarize kind of to me the main things that you can do to achieve privacy. There are not that many. Number one to me is probably a de-Googled phone. If you're going to use a phone, I'd rather have a de-Googled phone. Now, the main issue is something called device fingerprinting. So that's the problem. Whatever you do on a device fingerprinted phone is known to Google or to Apple, and they know locations, they know your device identity, they know what you do on the phone, they know what apps you open, they know everything on the phone. That really bugs me the most. And the identity is so precise because they know it because your phone has a serial number, IMEI, IMSI, and all these little identifiers, MAC address, that are uniquely identified as yours. And then everything you do on it is able to be tracked by the OS because nothing stops the OS from getting access to that. So that's number one, the Google phone. Now, how hard is that? Now, what sacrifices do you make with a de-Googled phone? Well, some apps don't work, especially Google apps. Some apps that you got to pay for may not work. Somebody said, well, I can't run Uber. Well, I don't know. Uber seems to run on my phone. I don't use Uber, but it seems to run fine. except for driver. Uber driver doesn't work. But then again, you can go to the website and go to uber.com and get a ride using uber.com. You're on the website on your phone. That's an example of a sacrifice. It's like you don't use the app. There's some minor inconveniences that you have to give up in order to just disappear from anybody's tracking. Beyond that, it's not that difficult. Most everything runs. I use on my phone. I run Spotify. I can run Waze. I can watch YouTube videos. Not using YouTube, but some other app like NewPipe, or go to a browser. There's not that many limitations. I can use my email. There's not that many limitations on it, but the phone doesn't have an identity. The other thing I got to worry about is, how my IP address is tracked. So that's simple. Use a VPN. And believe it or not, you do not need a VPN if you're using cell data. So when you're on the road using cell data, you're not using Wi-Fi, cell data. You don't have to worry about a VPN then, because your IP address is not yours anyway. You're borrowing an IP address. So when you're on the road, you're borrowing an IP address. Now, when you're in Starbucks and using the local Wi-Fi, yes, you are. It's not your Wi-Fi, so the IP address is not important when you're at Starbucks. However, when you're using a public Wi-Fi, you can get hacked. So that's a different threat. That's the reason you use a VPN at Starbucks, is so you don't get hacked, because you will get hacked if you don't hide your IP address with a VPN. But a VPN is for privacy. Is primarily something you do at home. That's why VPN router, is more of a home tool. It's not necessarily as important when you're on the road, because it's not your IP address. So 2 things so far: VPN, the Google phone. The other thing I teach you is something called browser isolation, which is to separate out the use of Google versus not Google. So 2 browsers. It's not really that difficult. When I go to Google, I use one browser. When I'm not using Google, I use a different browser. These 3 things alone are so strong. They do so much for your privacy, and they're not that much. They're not that much to do. And they have such a big impact. And so I don't know why it's like people say, well, I can't do this. It's too much work. It's good. First of all, when you buy a de-Google phone or de-Google a phone yourself, it's done. You get the phone, that's it. End of story. VPN, I told you, it's only set up, you only need it at home. So it's not that critical when you're like running around. You don't have to run it every single minute if you're on the road. And then final thing that I said is browser isolation. Have several browsers, like I said. These are not difficult things, and yet they actually account for 80% easily of all privacy concerns. Just that. It's not that much, and you disappear from all these databases that track all this. You disappear. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, by the way, that that I made on phone numbers. It's such a common question, so I wanted to make sure that you learn from that. What is the most expensive de-Google phone you sell? Pixel 4 128 gigabyte. That's the most expensive I sell, which is about $675 or something like that. They're expensive to buy because they're current model. Because I'm done. Operation off-grid finally thumbs up. Why? Oh, you're gonna go off-grid, huge debate. You're gonna go off-grid now that Bitcoin is good. You're gonna go off-grid now. Well, huge debate. It's a good friend. He's been a friend for many years that I've been doing this. So I thought you were like mad at me for something. How do you scrub your PII from data brokers that openly give away your information? You have to go Trapezi. You have to go to each one and opt out. It's not easy. You got to go to each one and opt out. But you really don't need to focus on that as much as creating a different identity and then stop using the other identity. You need to separate out identities. It's pretty hard to, almost impossible to erase what's in one identity. It's hard. Impossible. So the answer is create a new identity and be that new identity. So we are probably on the list for watching you. Well, what do I tell you? Go on YouTube and don't use your real name here. Who's using your real name here? Most of you have learned. Yep, BTC sealed it. Aren't you happy with that huge debite? Wow. BTC is like, what was it? 23,000? I remember talking about BTC, talking about BTC and Periscope. And I was teaching people how to use BTC when it was only 2,000. And now it's 23,000. And some people said, oh, I'm going to hold it. I'm not going to go get it. And some of them bought some at 4,000. And now it's 23,000. Many years ago now. I put initials on crypto cards. What do you think about Bitcoin and other coins in the future? Bitcoin and other coins are very important for privacy. Bitcoin is not that private, but if you move it around between other coins, then some of those traces are wiped out. So I think it's very important for privacy because obviously if you buy things from the internet using Bitcoin, then you're not revealing your identity with that. So that's an excellent way of doing it. And certainly I'm not telling people to use Bitcoin to evade taxes or anything like that. That's not what it's about. It's about, can you disconnect, credit rating, Equifax, all this, somebody watching your transactions by buying using crypto. So, I don't have a lot of crypto, but, I'm a big believer in crypto. Yes, you have to wash it, which is actually simple. 2112. Thank you. How about jailbreak iPhones? No. You jailbreak it, it's still an iPhone. If you jailbreak it and it's Android open source, then that's a different story. But you're not really doing that. What do I think about Bitwarden? I've never used Bitwarden. In general, I think that most password managers are probably just fine. I use KeePass. I used LastPass before, so I have a lot of experience with those two, KeePass and LastPass. I use KeePass now because it's open source. LastPass is no longer or not open source. How far back down do you think it will go? Are you talking about Bitcoin? It's not. I think we're done with that 6,000 bit. What time in LAX to end live streaming? 9:30. What do you think? Okay, it's City App, third party app. Then BTC hit 20K and went to 3K before. So you think it'll repeat again? You have to understand a little bit of history. The reason that it's not it didn't go down when it went up is because now it's supported by institutional investors. So whereas before everyone was speculating on Bitcoin, people are actually using Bitcoin to buy stuff, and because of that, they're not there to just sell. So it's completely different now. So I'm not. I think we're beyond this big drop. Well, you never know with the economy, but did you see your super chat? Did I miss your super chat? Let me see. things are going so fast here. So if you had a question on it, I may have missed it. Yes. Hold on. Wow, that how far back is that? My goodness, that's a problem when you have so many people watching you. Then there's too many comments. I don't. My gosh, I'm already. In recent video, you mentioned purchasing Sims. Can you elaborate? What I do is, some of you don't even understand this, and this is kind of amusing to me. Some of you don't understand how phones work. So people are asking me, when you buy a phone, do you give us a SIM card? No, guys. SIM cards are unique to the carrier. So each carrier is a different SIM card. So if you're going with Verizon or T-Mobile or Sprint or any of the MVNOs, Mint, Ting, Cricket, Republic, all of those are called MVNOs, resellers of the main phone companies. They're actually in the U.S. only T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T. Those are the only four. So anyone else is just reselling those four. They're only four telecommunication infrastructures around here. So, but when you have a SIM card, the SIM card specifically identifies the carrier, and then they put an IMSI, which is the subscriber identity, to that carrier. So if you're on Republic, they give you their SIM card, and then your identity is then stored in the Republic database. So anytime you use your phone, it connects to Republic database, and then they validate you on the network, and then on and on and on. Now, in my case, I use Ting.com for my side phone. I'm on T-Mobile on my main phone, so it's unlimited. But my side phone, I don't want to spend too much money on a side phone. It's really just, for obfuscating an identity. So if you call me, you call my Google Voice number, and then my Google Voice will forward to my second phone, which will have a different phone number, which I can change as often as I can change SIM cards. So when you go to Ting.com, it's online. You go in there, activate a SIM card, and when you're done, you throw it away and activate a new SIM card, deactivate the old one. You can do this over and over. There's no charge for it. They just charge you once a month. So if you pick a day of the month where you're going to do this, you can change your SIM card once every month, once every 2 months, whatever you want. The point is that it's not going to be able to accumulate data if you keep changing phone numbers. So that's what that means when you change the SIM card. So when you change SIM cards, you can choose a different phone number. Typically, that's what that means. You don't port a phone number, you change phone number. And that's the best use case. You change your phone number, so no identity is tied to the phone number. I still have another phone number that's fixed, but anyone else cannot call me on that number because I don't give it out. And then all of the people who call me call a Google Voice number, which then forwards to that phone number. So even Google can't really track me with a phone number because the phone number keeps changing. And then my carrier may know who I am, because of the credit card, but Google isn't going to know that. So it's going to be a dead end unless it's a government, then they can subpoena. Okay, but I don't care about that. So there's nothing I'm doing that leads me to have to worry about government knowing who I am. So that doesn't matter. So all I'm saying is breaking the database connection, the AI connection between the phone number that I'm using, which is Google Voice, and my real phone number. So the other thing you can do, some of you can, go and brax me and say, hey, let's exchange SIM cards. So you can buy a bunch of SIM cards and say, let's do an exchange. So then nobody will know where the SIM cards come from if you do an exchange. So I encourage that. It's a good thing. Especially if you age the SIM card a little bit and then you do a trade and say, I'll buy your 2 SIM cards and exchange it my 2 SIM cards. It's not a bad thing to do. Some of you may think it's overkill, but it's kind of cool because if you circulate the SIM cards enough times, then it could be very interesting. I can type 30 in the cart. Is that all you can buy them from Amazon? Tin cards you can buy from a store. They're not always just from Ting itself. I like Ting for this purpose because of what I'm saying is they're paid for per use. So if you use them infrequently, you can cut your cost down to $10. Like a full use phone will be like $30. But a partially used phone can be $10-20 depending on how much you use. Let's say you don't use data. Say you're only using the telephone and texting. Well, that can be $10. Because it's $10 for the phone, $10 for the data, $10 for what else did I have in there? Mostly data. Buy a vanilla gift card in cash, then buy a Ting number. I mean, if you want to go through all that, that's fine. Ting's name is very annoying. It is Chinese for listen, not very good connotation of privacy. I don't. Yeah. Ting sounds Chinese, doesn't it? But it's a U.S. company. Yeah, it's kind of Ting. I think it's like a sound of a ringing phone, maybe. That's maybe what that means. I don't think it intended to be a Chinese sounding sound. I'm from the UK. Well, obviously you look at all the phone offerings in your country, and there will be something equivalent. There has to be. It's a big business, Being an MVNO is a big business. So everyone's always reselling, some other carrier. So that's very, very common. What's a good cheap ham radio? What kind of question is that? You ought to answer the question first. What kind of license do you have? Are you talking HF, VHF, or what? What 440? What 200 megahertz? What range? Like here in LA, the most the 440 megahertz here is very, very busy. So in LA, you can turn on the radio and there's always somebody on there. How are you liking your new Windows computer? My new Windows computer is quite powerful. So, when you're doing video editing, I did, my last video is a kind of a complex video with complex effects that you may not even realize. And that took 7 hours to process. Can you imagine if I had a slow computer? That would have been 24 hours. What do you think of the LG Wing? Don't know what that is, but is that one of those foldable phones that are really stupid? Why do you live in LA? I live next to LA. Why do you live in LA? I live next to LA. I don't know where you live next to LA, but I gotta be near my boat. Mr. Waste. So it's not necessarily where I live in LA, but I gotta live next to my boat or nearby. They're definitely bro, I have to give that a Govections carrier EE. I don't understand that. I use 2 cans and a string. In terms of networking equipment, do you prefer Cisco or Ubiquiti? I don't have any Cisco. I can't say that home users use a lot of Ubiquiti. I do have Ubiquiti because it's part of my mesh network setup. So I have a bunch of Ubiquiti long distance modems, but it's not for everyday people to use. Google sent my friend and I a free Google Home Mini. We thought it was so shady, so we never plugged it in. Oh, you how about my stack of Amazon Echo? So some of you sent me, where do I have it? Some of you sent me, Amazon Echo for me to tear apart to see what's in there. So I haven't done it yet, so I got to go plan that out in 2021, where we open up a Amazon Echo to show you what's in there. My laptop renders a video in about 130% of the length of the video, and it is a year old. Well, Jade, it depends on how complex the effects are. Like if I don't, if it's a straight 4K video, and I'm doing 4K, if I'm doing a straight 4K video, just a standard video, I can usually render it in encode it in 8 minutes or under. But when you're doing something complex like what I was doing with effects, then it's frame by frame. Have you ever discussed Bitcoin thought? Yes, I don't talk Bitcoin much here on YouTube because YouTube is going to censor you for talking crypto. So I don't know why. So since it's not my main topic, I'm not going to go into that. So hello, Sid Hunt. By the way, there's this guy. Do you guys know Mr. Who's the Boss? Do you know that YouTuber? With millions of subscribers. Kind of like another Linux Tech Tips guy. Mr. Who's the Boss? Sick. I mean, can't even spell Who's the Boss. Who's the Boss spelled WHOSE. Anyway, if you can't even spell your name right, I'm not sure. Anyway, Mr. Who's the Boss reviewed a Librem 5, and he basically came to a conclusion that, hey, nobody's going to want this. Nobody's going to want, this is his conclusion at the end, no one's going to want this because no one's going to give up their conveniences for this privacy stuff. It's not going to be important. Nobody's going to care. And they will stick to their Androids, and no one will worry about a Librem 5. Now, not concerned specifically about Librem 5, but the idea of privacy phones in general. And this guy is just, he basically concluded that no one's going to care. Kind of like the topic of this video. No one's going to care. So it's really, really sad because we don't want that. We want people to care. So if there's enough of us to care, these companies will change their behavior. One of the things I want to do, by the way, is have a segment on this live stream where we shame companies who block VPNs. So start making a list of companies, and I'll start asking you companies that are blocking VPNs, and we will shame them here. I'll tell you some companies that are blocking VPNs now that are like pisses me off. Sephora, AT&T, Microsoft actually plays a game where you can't go to use the Microsoft store until you take off the VPN. Crate and Barrel. Just some examples of this. Craigslist. So anyone who blocks VPNs, we need to shame them because these are UPS. Why would UPS block a VPN? So I actually complained to UPS. I said, "Why are you blocking a VPN? I'm concerned about my privacy. Why do you need to block a VPN?" And they gave me an exception. They actually went to Hulu blocks. Well, streaming is a little bit different. Forget streaming because they have geographical limitations. Banks that block VPNs. Bank of America blocks VPNs. So it really pisses me off. So if we need to shame these companies because, like, you don't care about us. Why should we care about you? Let us have our privacy. And all asking, we're not here to rob you or do illegal things, but we use a VPN for privacy, not to cheat you. So therefore, why are you preventing us from doing that when it's very important for us not to be revealing our personal information? So it's just really, really bugs me, and we need to have a shaming session where Bank of America may work for you in some cases, for depending on what the activity is. I don't think Bank of America blocks every server. Depends on what you're doing on the server. So I was using VPN that had cloaked mode, but that is to hide it from my ISP. I don't know what some of these are. Use my VPN, bytesvpn.com. So guys, this channel survives because of many of you supporting the little services that I provide, and that supplements, what I make in the extensive amount of money I get from Google, from the ads. I'm the channel's getting bigger now, so the ad revenue is bigger, much bigger than it was, but I am not going to survive from ad revenue. So I do not survive from ad revenue. Clearly, most of my income comes from the services that I have to offer to keep this channel running. I'd rather not do any of that. I'd rather just concentrate on making videos. But I don't have a choice. I got to keep the channel going. So I have to sell products. That's why I sell services like degoogling, VPN, Bytes VPN, as well as offer you consulting services, because otherwise there's no way to survive. So it's kind of hard. So because of that, yes. So if you're thinking about a VPN, obviously think about Bytes VPN. It's $89 a year, and probably $3 more than the competition, maybe $4 more than the competition. So it's not the cheapest by $4. So if you want to support the channel, you're not going to worry about the fact that it's slightly more expensive, because you want to support the channel. So I really would appreciate it. Robert Hardy, you should, it's you can pretty much guess what the income is if you know how many views the channel gets. So yeah, it's much better than it was. So the channel's big now. We get a lot of views, and I'm catching up to some of the previously major names in privacy on YouTube, and I'm getting up there as one of the leading channels on privacy. So I want to focus on that, and that's my intent. If I can get away with not selling anything or not offering any kind of service, that would be great, but I can't do that, And I also appreciate the fact that I do get advertisers. I'm very careful about advertisers. As you can see, I don't carry a lot of advertisers. Most of them I reject because their message has to conform to what I want the channel to project. So I don't just accept any advertiser if what they're selling doesn't match what I believe, or if it's a product that I'm not going to use myself. So if I've pushed a sponsor, often it's because I really do believe in them. So it's not a fake thing. So I'm glad my channel is big enough that I can get sponsors. I have no idea how much per view. I'm so curious. Can you make stupidest car videos and make bank? Yeah, right. Face recognition imprinted on real ID. Hold it up to a light at an angle. By the way, so California said, okay, we're going to renew your driver's license and we're going to use a real ID on it. And I said, zuck that. I'm not going to put real ID on my driver's license. And they said, well, if you don't do that, then you have to use a passport if you're going to fly. Okay, I'll use a passport. which has RFID on it. Trapezi, I will never accept a sponsorship from any VPN because I have one. The only sponsorship I accept is Bytes VPN. That's it. Bytes VPN. That's the only sponsorship of a VPN. Don't ask me, is that VPN good? Do you know who runs a VPN? If you don't know who's running it, then how can you trust them? So I'm running the VPN, and I'm gonna be frank with you. A lot of my VPN runs on Linode. So if you want to be completely open about it, yeah. A lot of my VPN servers are on Linode because they're a good company. So they are my main, not all of it, but a good chunk of it is on Linode. What do you think of Intel ME? Yeah, I tell you how to disable it. Have you seen the Hated One video where he trashes VPNs? Sorry, I don't really watch some of these other. Some people say that I take videos from some of these other YouTubers that have a similar focus. And you will find that I don't actually pay attention to what they say. So some say, well, your video is conflicting with what is said by X, Y, and Z. And you know what? Don't care. A lot of these people have their own experiences, but I trust in my experience. I've been at this much longer than some of these guys. So I'm not afraid to say that I do not take information from other people in relation to some of these. Most of my opinions are from myself. Okay? So don't compare me to something. Well, your video doesn't conform to what XYZ stated. Just to tell you 3 channels that, I'm sure will be in conflict. Maybe more than 3 channels, but anything from Leo Laporte and Steve Gibson, they have many channels. Leo Laporte has many channels. Yeah, we'll have conflict there, I'm sure. There's Techlore. We'll have conflict there. There's Hated One. We'll have conflict there. I don't really care. I'm I'm my own person, and I don't watch their videos. So I don't really know what they're saying. I don't know if they're talking about me or not. I have no idea. So not really concerned about it. Just gonna go with what I say from my own experience and my own attempts at solving privacy issues by myself and using my head. Similar to the comment by YouTuber MrWhoseTheBoss. What did he say? Can a regular camera carry any data? No. Regular cameras are not connected to the internet. They can carry timestamp data. They don't normally carry GPS data. Not normally. KeePass is a password manager. What is your opinion of the censorship going on with the COVID vaccine and the election results? And will you take the vaccine? I'm not going to be getting into that. Be happy, cat. That's one good way to get yourself off focus and have YouTube censor me, even though that's not my focus. If that's my focus, I'll discuss it. But it's not my focus, so I won't discuss it. It will just be a distraction. What are your thoughts of upcoming FX Pro 1 as a Linux phone? I know it's a limited run, that FX Pro 1 looks interesting as a Android phone. Are you saying that they're going to make it Linux as well? Because it's meant to be an Android phone. And looks good as an Android phone. I mean, it's probably kind of like AOSP out of the box, de-Googled out of the box. Yeah, so to not get, you will get censored on YouTube. There's no, I've been censored before in here. I talked about, certain issues like, infectious diseases of various kinds, and I got censored here. So, and I get demonetized all the time. So, if it doesn't concern my main subject matter, I won't distract you. I want you to have your own opinions, though. Keep your opinions. Not going to tell you that your opinions are valid or invalid. You should have an opinion. You pre-ordered a pin phone. What is a pin phone? Is that like a pine phone? What is the difference in technology between a passport and real ID? Real ID is, they're both RFID. But the thing is, I don't carry a passport unless I'm going to travel, in an airplane. So I don't need the RFID, long range RFID Generation B. I don't need that in my driver's license at all times where somebody can RFID me from 200 feet away. Why would I want that? So, no. So, it's okay if I have to go to an airplane and I can take a Faraday bag and put in an RFID passport in there, because when I'm done, I'm going to store it in a zucking Faraday bag. But your driver's license, you're not going to do that. So I'm not going to get a California Real ID. So do you still use Manjaro Linux or Arch Linux? I use Ubuntu on my main Linux. Could you speak in lead speak combined with Cockney? No. Why is Phil Zimmerman? Is it better to use Yahoo or Gmail? Don't know. I'm sure Yahoo is probably better than Gmail because they will read it less because they're not powerful enough to read your email. I don't think Real ID is RFID. Of course, it has RFID. That's the whole point to it. RFID. Did they take RFID out of Real ID? It was supposed, like your passport has RFID. Would you take COVID? Yes, Verizon bought Yahoo. Can you make the Google phone review videos? What are your favorites? No, I'm not going to do that, King Singh, because it attracts a certain type of audience, and I don't really want to deal with that. Let me just be frank with you. I don't really care. I don't really care what. Sorry, I never took the tag in there. I don't really care what AOSP you use, if you're going to use Lineage or some of the other ones. There are many, and not just the ones you hear from certain groups. But to be honest with you, for what I'm teaching here, you don't need any particular one. Because some of them have, cybersecurity implications, supposedly, that doesn't really concern me since I don't really put any data. Thoughts on facial recognition. Japanese made visors about 5 years ago and has been radio silent ever since. Coach Constance, first of all, thank you. And I do have a facial recognition video. Unfortunately, when I do facial recognition video, nobody watches it, so it's kind of frustrating. But please watch my facial recognition video. It's not that old. It's like summer, a few months ago when I made that video. And it's frustrating when nobody watches it. What is safer, a VPN, some SOCKS 5 proxy? Well, all VPNs are SOCKS 5, so I'm not understanding the point of the question there. A 9-year-old boy has made nearly $30 million a year from unboxing. So they're not going to put RFID into a real ID card as they did with a passport. Is that true? I actually didn't check it recently, but that was not the original plan. The original plan was RFID. So maybe some people said, "Oh yeah, bad for privacy." Who knows? We'll see. Uh, do you ever do things like changing your routes to and from home, leaving the house at different times so as to not advertise your schedule? I don't have a schedule. See, I work from home. What do? I make videos. I don't have a fixed schedule, so uh, I don't have a pattern. And I remember when my iPhone used to tell me you are 5 minutes from your destination, and that's when that iPhone never left my house anymore. Uh, could you could get face tattoos? uh, Reflective glasses do work. Um, Kelp, did you change name? Did you get blocked with your old name and I have a new name? Uh, by the way, Kelp, I guess your lovely app Periscope is ending. So it's kind of sad because I did spend. I've been on Periscope for the last 6 years, although I haven't done anything in there much in the last 2 years. But yeah, so 6 years of Periscope, and now yeah, Periscope is being killed. So sad. It's very sad. So it's another era. So it's funny how people will tell me, uh, we're afraid to use your app Brax Me because we don't know if you're gonna be around, and yet my app has been around longer than many of these platforms. Most of them, unless they're in the top 10, most of them are dead. So I can afford to keep it running, so it runs. There's an RF blocking paint. Yeah, you can do that. It's RF blocking paint is available. Is digital currency edible? Police dispatchers have COVID maps. I feel medical should be private. Seems like it is. Of course, it's not. Do you not know that any diagnosis of COVID is reported and it's in the ICD-10 databases? I'm in medical. I know this. That's why they can plot who has COVID by location exactly from where you live. It's in your medical record, and then they get that reported, and that yeah. So they don't even need contact tracing. If they can get Apple and Google to participate and say, could you just give us anybody who's not, who's not following the rules and not keeping 6 feet apart, they can supply that. And that's a scary part. Scary to me. Forget about Huawei. Forget about it. Forget about it. What's the point of de-Googling if you're Huawei? Choose something that's really free. Truly free and open source. Not something that's supposedly open source, but then they lock that sucking bootloader so that you don't really know what's in there. Can I get that data? Well, I could get that data from my clients back in the day, and that would have been millions of people. So, yeah, I could find out anybody with a COVID diagnosis and then track them by home address. Yes, I could do that. But some of these private companies will have what are called health information exchanges that can have information that has an even bigger reach. And any one of those companies that run a health information exchange, so they have the database for all that. They can do it, nationwide. I'm going to go back to using a beeper. I wish somebody should sell beepers. If your phone isn't with you, nobody can track its proximity. Yes, correct. Very important. And if you have a de-Google phone, it's not going to track it either. De-Google phones are fantastic. You should teach this stuff in universities. The problem, I mean, I could teach a lot of stuff in universities, even from medical informatics, software development, privacy, all of this. There's so many things I could do in a university, but it's better to just teach it on YouTube. So what phones do you recommend that aren't super expensive? Hey, I have a lot of Pixel XLs. They're only $269. De-Google. They run great. They're brand new. It's a very old model, yes, but they're brand new phones, so the batteries are new. They're de-Googled, and if you want to upgrade them at some later point, it didn't cost you an arm and a leg. It's only $269. So that's the cheapest right now and the most reliable. Then you can go all the way to Pixel 4 XL. 128 gigabytes, which I sell for $675. They're expensive to buy. So yes, I have I stock a lot of Pixel XLs. That's I think is a nice basic de-Google phone that is inexpensive. It's completely functional. Everything's on there, and it's a Pixel, so it runs very well, and it runs with every carrier. So, and if you want to upgrade it to a Pixel 4 at some point in the future, you could. I don't know anything about any SolarWind hack, so Pixel and Lineage OS, very good. Yeah, that's what I use. I'm using a Pixel 4. I used to. My first phone was my first de-Google phone was a Motorola Moto G7 Play, which I'm not selling right now. And then I switched to a Pixel 3, and then I switched to a Pixel 4. Pixel 4 is very expensive, so I don't recommend spending that much money when you can get a Pixel 3 for cheaper. Pixel 3 is pretty good. There's very little difference between a Pixel 4 and Pixel 3 other than the fact that, it's a newer phone. Xiaomi is good. I actually have never touched a Xiaomi, but that should be okay. I've never held or, de-Googled a Xiaomi. What desktop OS to use? All of them. Sandra, I have Windows, I have Linux, I have Mac OS. I have to use all of them. If you want to feel safer, it's safer to use Linux, obviously, but not all apps can run on it. So I have to use every single one depending on what I'm doing. Can your phone ping with your laptop or any public computer and identify you? No, it doesn't work like that. They're independent devices. Is it more private to use one phone or lots of phones? It doesn't matter, Mad Cow. It depends if they're de-Googled or not. If they're iOS phones, like you love iOS phones, then they're all contact tracing, so they're all connected to each other. Whereas since I'm not using iPhone here, it can't contact trace anything. You can use whatever version of Linux you want. Doesn't matter to me. I heard some nuclear security thing got hacked also. Can you talk about, I already have a video on IPv6 DH. You should watch that. It's very important. You should watch that. IPv6, very important. By the way, and I'm out of time, so I'm going to leave you with this comment here. Did you know that every phone is using IPv6? Now, it's not really full internet IPv6. It's just to the carrier, and then the carrier routes you through the internet in IPv4. Now you're going to say, well, who cares? That's too techy. I don't know what that means. IPv6, guys, means that your MAC address is on the IP address in IPv6 plus the location. It's pretty crazy. So from a spying point of view, I mean, I need to look at the IPv6. If I can capture your IPv6 on a non-de-Googled phone, that's enough information to identify you. That's a really good browser fingerprint. I mean, a device fingerprint. Really, really good device fingerprint. And, you know, it's a problem. Conspiracy Night. Is that, are you somebody I know from Periscope? What about IPv6 and Orbot? Orbot requires IPv6. Well, it's going to stop at the next machine. Bbrax, thank you so much. Thank you. Higher number means bad thing. Yes. I'm getting a VPN IP configured and my IPv6 was I'm using your IPVPN and my IPv6 was showing up. My VPN does not route IPv6. You may have IPv6, it's not going to route it. So it'll stop where you are. There's no IPv6 leak on my VPN. Is having an old style Garmin GPS a car better? Yes, better. Yes. Louise, yes, better. Independent devices are totally spy free. I'm out. Joe Smith is out. Can I still use Signal WhatsApp on a de-Googled phone? Yes. Actually, install Signal. Don't use WhatsApp if you can. I mean, seriously. But I saw some of your vids there, but I don't know what that means. An encrypted conference. Just go to Brax.me and talk to each other. Guys, you know, it's been like such a heavy schedule for me. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. If I release a video next week on my usual schedule, it's going to be released on December 24. So I'm thinking that's probably not a good time to release a video. So not sure it makes sense to release a video on December 24. Or do a live stream on December 25. So I don't know about next week. I'm not clear what I'm going to do yet, okay? Mr. Contrarian here, how do you stay healthy and safe? Kelp, don't get infected, Kelp. 6 feet apart. Don't get infected. New standards set by W3 are all to spy on you. Yeah, so anyway, so I'm thinking to suspend activity on my usual schedule is December. If I were to do the same thing as next week, it would be December 24th and 25th, which does not make any sense. So maybe I'll push it off. Maybe I do it December 26th. Maybe I release a video December 26th. Probably no live stream. So let me think about it. I haven't thought about it yet, but clearly it doesn't make any sense to to do a broadcast or video on December 24th unless I have something to say that is Christmas related. If it's not Christmas related, then it doesn't make any sense. So take care. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. And I'll see you guys in sometime when the holidays are over. Okay? And what live stream shall we use instead of Periscope? Tough question. Tough question. I don't know. Okay, good night, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.